there waiting. We've had persons on the island who had to be rescued from out of the attic and their roofs. You know, the water began to escalate so high that it even got up to the roof, and they had to go in the attic. You know, I mean, I just want to publicly thank each and every person that has gone out their way, you know, put their own lives at risk to, you know, be their brother's keeper. And that's what we need to be at this time, our brother's keeper.
Yeah, and we second that. I mean, those people who are doing that are doing yeoman's work. And Denise, you say your grandmother is out there and she's waiting. When you say she's waiting, is she waiting for the boat to come get here, or is she waiting for the conditions to try and clear up so that a boat can come and get her?
They're currently waiting to just be rescued. Any way that someone can get to them, they're just currently waiting to be rescued. The water there is so high that they can't walk through the water. They're asking for someone to come on a boat or jet skis, and in some areas that's what has had to happen. Persons have had to be rescued in boat and jet skis, and they're waiting to be rescued. They're on Facebook pleading for help for anyone to come and get them.
Yeah, I mean, our hearts go out for them. Is your grandmother, is she able to move? Can she walk? Can she get to the boat? Does she need any kind of special assistance? Is this going to be a problem to get her, or is she one of those people who is able and as soon as the boat comes, she's going to jump in and go?
She's elderly. She's able to. She's mobile, but you know she's in her 80s and she moves rather slow.
Yeah, and I just want to know, I know you're having a tough time. You've got power problems there, Denise, and just so you know, this is still a Category 4 hurricane. What you're facing right now, Category 4, we're being told 145-mile-per-hour winds, and it's not moving at all, so it's going to stay stationary. So, yeah, you and your family, you need to stay inside. I know it's tough to get information down there because power is really in short supply, but you need to stay safe. Is it your assessment or your sense that you and your family and others in your area for the time being are safe and out of harm's way?
For the time being, we appear to be safe. But like I said, where my mother lives is about a 15-minute drive from here. And when they were on their way down here, the water is coming in. It's coming in slowly. Then the area that's just going towards the east of me, there's flooding conditions there. So we're just praying and being hopeful that it's only a matter of time before the water begins to move more and more inland. Our airport is underwater. The police station has experienced flooding. It's just, really, really crazy.
Yeah, what about food and water and the necessities? You're fine on that? Your family's fine on that? The people around the Bahamas are fine on that?
So far, yeah, but, if this continues the way it is and you lock down in your homes, food stores are closed, and most canned goods and, store necessities, just before the stores were closed, stores were really low on them because everybody's trying to stock up, as much as they can. So I think everybody will be good for the next few days. But, with this storm lingering the way it is, after that, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, we could not wish you any more luck. I mean, Denise, I know you're in a hard time right there. You and your family are struggling. This storm's going to be there for a while. Hunker down. Stay safe. The best to you. We will check back in with you later at some point in time, but all the best of luck to you and your family. Good luck.
And that was listening to an interview with someone out in the Bahamas, but in Florida, there are storm chasers out on Cocoa Beach Pier, where they are seeing that outer band of Hurricane Dorian create some weather that is definitely something you don't want to be caught in. They say wind gusts are over 40 miles per hour at sunset after they have seen a spout and an intense band with embedded circulations in it coming towards the coastline. So again, even if the hurricane hasn't made its way all the way to the U.S., and even if it doesn't touch landfall, there's still going to be some of those items that you have to deal with because of the winds that come along with it. Taking a live look right now at just some of these predictions on when it's going to hit, where it's going to hit. You can see winds at 140 miles per hour. Right now it is sitting stationary just a little bit northeast of Freeport, Grand Bahama Island. And they are thinking around Tuesday tomorrow at 2 p.m. that the winds hopefully will decrease to 125 miles per hour. That could also move that hurricane down another category, down to a Category 3 storm. And as I switch back to live cameras that we have coming from Florida, on your left-hand box, that is on the west side of the state. So that is Clearwater Beach in Florida. And on the right-hand side, well, that's the east-hand side of Florida's state. That is, again, out in Daytona Beach. So two very different views as the sun starts to go down in Florida. So that one tucked inside on that Gulf, they're of course more protected from this hurricane than on obviously the East Coast side that is getting all of those hurricane threats coming into this evening, into tomorrow, and through the week. And as this storm continues to make its way towards Florida, we are getting some awesome live camera pictures from both ends of Florida. We have, as I mentioned before, Daytona Beach on your right-hand box, Clearwater Beach on your left-hand box. But they do say, this is according to our Fox 35 chief meteorologist, he said, Dorian is the second most powerful hurricane recorded in northern Atlantic Ocean when it comes to wind. It is the 11th strongest based on pressure, when the pressure on Sunday was at its lowest point early in the day. The good news for Florida is they're starting to see the form of the system changing. There is a more northerly push. If you go with that northerly move, it just pushes it out due north, and it would be way off the east coast if that continues to be the case. So of course all eyes are going to continue to be watching these models as they continue to track exactly which direction Hurricane Dorian is going to decide to go as it continues to make its way to the U.S. East Coast. Residents in Florida are still being encouraged to stay prepared even if this storm does not make landfall on your area in Florida. Any last minute preparations should be made today as Hurricane Dorian is expected to continue to make its way westward, northwestward. The Hurricane Center does warn of life-threatening storm surges and dangerous winds along portions of Florida's east coast. And Dorian will be close to Florida's coast starting late tonight through Wednesday evening, as it then moves to Georgia and southern Carolina coasts straight after that. So that is why we keep hearing from different authorities from each of these different states along that track. And as we just heard too, the Bahamas, when Dorian was sitting above the Bahamas, it not only left a destructive path, but a deadly one at that too, saying that the storm has taken 5 lives in the Bahamas, and there are mandatory evacuations in order for many counties in Florida, as well as along the coastline in both South and North Carolina, along Georgia as well. And of course, a lot of people saw Hurricane Dorian stalling over the Bahamas, still as a Category 4. And as we mentioned, that's just been a deadly and catastrophic videos and news that we've had coming from the Bahamas. And just wanted to give you a few different views of what this hurricane looks like. You can see its massive size there as it continues to make its way towards Florida. And now you can kind of understand why some of the reporters we've seen and some of the live pictures we've seen on the beaches of that east coast in Florida have already had wind gusts of up to 40 miles per hour. Some areas have had rain nonstop. Some of them described it as almost a light switch. 1 minute it's pouring rain, the next it's sunny and clear. So again, that's only going to be what's to come with this hurricane on its way. Looking at a timeline here, let me squeeze that in full for you. Again, Hurricane Dorian expected, let me take that down as well, Tuesday to be making its way across that east coast of Florida, all the way into Wednesday evening before making its way up along the east coast of the U.S. And while we are seeing some of those winds saying that they're around 145 miles per hour, that's just constant. There are gusts of wind all the way up to 170 miles per hour. And the Grand Bahamas have been drenched. The storm surge 12 to 18 feet, and there is bands of heavy rain and strong winds already increasing across the Florida coast, and it will continue overnight. And you can see that sun going down means that our view of Daytona Beach has definitely switched as well, only seeing some city lights there on the coast. Earlier we watched those waves continue to crash in, so I am going to switch us on over to the other side of Florida on that west coast side. Clearwater Beach. We'll continue to watch this sunset, and of course continue to keep our eyes on that hurricane track. If new information comes up, we'll bring it to you right here on News Now. And thank you to all of you who are here with us. If you have not yet, you can go and subscribe to our page. We always bring you breaking news and top stories that happen across the country. Today the big news has been not only Hurricane Dorian, also that boat fire, the deadly one that happened out in California. You can always go and watch any of the clips that have happened here on News Now, or if you've missed any news through the day, on our Fox 10 Phoenix channel. And then also that deadly shooting down in West Texas over the weekend. Authorities have been giving very few updates throughout today on their investigation, but we do also have some of those clipped as well, again, on our Fox 10 Phoenix channel.
Wait, you all sure we can make this? Attempt to head out in the storm, to evacuate, to go by our neighbors, two-story home. Wait, the car moving? Yo, we gotta move the generator. Help me put the generator on the thing up.
We gotta go up on the attic. The actual thing.
Where the car is, but oscillatory now. The windows are broken, and now water is coming through those big windows you see over there. Water is everywhere. The kitchen is destroyed. Water is up to basically the cabinets. Everything is just in ruins. All the wooden floors came up. It's a disaster. I shine in the light with.
Just a little glimpse of what winds over 180 miles an hour can do. Not only the wind damage, but the storm surge there on the islands in the northern Bahamas. More video now from the Bahamas showing the wrath of Dorian. Grand Bahama Island, cell phone video showing a massive storm surge with water as high as some windows in homes. According to local reports, the Grand Bahama International Airport in Freeport was under 5 feet of water earlier today. The news station monitoring Hurricane Dorian coming up. It's not just the beaches that are worried about this storm.
We're going to talk about some inland communities as well, fearing that all the rain can lead to flooding. So we'll talk about that and more as our special coverage of Hurricane Dorian continues. Stay with us.
As you can see, we're going to be taking a live look at Fox 35 in Orlando's newscast as they continue to update their residents on what's happening with Hurricane Dorian. And as we're waiting for their newscast to come back, it is escalating in Florida as mandatory evacuations had accelerated on the Florida coast ahead of Hurricane Dorian. It had weakened slightly, the storm, to a Category 4 hurricane, but it is still said to be extremely dangerous.
storm still battering the Bahamas at this hour, even with strong winds remaining. People outside clearing away debris. Just about every car and truck you see in this parking lot right here damaged or destroyed. It is now 8:30. Good evening once again. We have a lot more ahead as we do continue to monitor Hurricane Dorian.
Yeah, first thing we're going to do is, of course, get an update on the track, what Dorians look like, and meteorologist Brooks Tomlin has the latest.
Not much of an update because, again, Dorian's still just sitting and spinning right to the north of Grand Bahama Island. Good evening, Steve and Danielle. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us on My 65. The latest from the National Hurricane Center, and look at that word, once again, stationary. It's been either stationary or it's been moving at, what, 1, 2, 3 miles an hour for about the last 30 hours. Here's Abaco. The eastern side of Abaco is where we have Treasure Key and Elbow Key. This is Grand Bahama Island. Freeport is right here. Again, these areas have just been absolutely battered in the last 36 hours from Hurricane Dorian. Yesterday, the winds 185. Now the wind's down to 140. I mean, think about it. It's a very strong Category 4 storm, and we're talking about winds being down 45 miles an hour from yesterday. Real quick, I mentioned this a couple of times already today. Same thing with Glenn. We're watching a weather station that's on the far western end of Grand Bahama Island. It's about 35 or more than likely, unless something crazy occurs, and let's hope and pray that doesn't. Right now, high confidence that it will start to move to the north as we go through tomorrow morning. Again, overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, not much movement with Dorian. Now, tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock, still supposed to be to the south and east of us. Note the wind down to 125 miles an hour. You know what moved off our coast 3 years ago with 125 mile an hour winds? Hurricane Matthew did on a very similar track. As a matter of fact, Dorian's track from the National Hurricane Center, the forecast track, is a little further east than Matthew's track was. Keep that in mind as we go through the next 48 hours. Wednesday overnight, around 2 o'clock in the morning, Dorian tracks about 90 miles. That's the official forecast track, 90 miles east of us here in Central Florida. And by now, around here, once again, we have hurricane and tropical storm warnings through the duration, more than likely through Wednesday evening. So figure about 48 hours of these tropical storm warnings and hurricane warnings. Hurricane warnings along the coastal counties, Brevard, Coastal Volusia, Flagler, and then tropical storm warnings everywhere else in Central Florida, predominantly due to the amount of gusts we could be seeing in some of the squalls that have already been coming into Central Florida. Take a look at Guardian Live weather radar through the day. The northeast flow has been bringing in very tropical atmosphere. And once again, I mentioned it a few minutes ago. I hope you had a chance to see some of the rainbows outside today. It reminds me of a very tropical, lush atmosphere. That's what we're seeing. And with the tropical atmosphere, yeah, more rainbows, more downpours, more squally weather, not much in the risk of thunderstorms because the atmosphere is just too tropical or too warm. Current winds outside coming out of the north and the northeast, generally right now, between 15 and 25 miles an hour. These same winds look to continue through the overnight hours into tomorrow morning. Now, tomorrow morning through the midday hours, the winds will start to increase from southeast to northwest. Wind gusts so far today, the strongest wind gusts in some of these squalls, 40 miles an hour in Volusia County, Daytona Beach, 41 miles an hour wind gusts earlier today in Melbourne, Brevard County. So already seeing tropical storm force wind gusts. Now, here's the wind forecast as we go through the next 24 to 48 hours. And you see the winds increasing as we go through the day tomorrow. Strongest winds stay offshore. Easily could see tropical storm force winds with the possibility of hurricane force gusts right along the coast, Flagler, Volusia, and Brevard counties. And then by the time we get to late Wednesday, winds finally starting to subside, coming out of the west. And I'll leave you with this as we go through, well, goodness gracious, the first, 2 days of September now? The peak of hurricane season is still about a week away. And where we're looking, not just Hurricane Dorian, we're looking in the Gulf of Mexico. Possible development with this system in the far western Gulf of Mexico as it moves towards the Texas and Mexican border. And then, generally, we look to the east, way east of us, talking about just off the coast of Africa near the Cape Verde Islands, another area poised to develop. As a matter of fact, as it has a high risk of development in the next 4 to 5 days, we could be seeing a brand new tropical depression or another tropical storm developing in the Atlantic. We'll keep our eyes on Dorian and have the latest for you through the evening. For now, I'll send it back to you.
I appreciate you, Brooks. Thanks so much. 8:35. Brevard County is bracing for Dorian's worst impacts.
That's right. The news station, Lara Greenberg, live tonight in Indy Atlantic. What are you seeing out there, Lara?
Hey guys, yeah, we're seeing a lot of wind right now out here. It hasn't rained in about 40 minutes or so, but we are seeing a lot of wind. We're feeling that wind, and we're still seeing those white caps on the ocean come up. Right now, we also have been seeing a lot of people on the beach, actually, even though this area is under mandatory evacuation. Anastasia here is one of the people that we've seen on the beach. You were taking some pictures. Tell me what brought you out here tonight.
I just wanted to come see it. I wanted to come see the storm surge, document it, maybe study it a little bit.
Here.
I moved here to study ocean engineering at Florida Institute of Technology.
So this is your perfect opportunity to get a good look at the ocean doing some crazy stuff, right?
Yes, totally.
So what do you think being out here? What's it like to see? I mean, I'm assuming you've never seen something like this before. You've never been on the beach before a hurricane is coming. What are your thoughts?
It's much stronger than I thought. I thought that the waves would be a little bit bigger, but you know, the wind is crazy, how dark it is, how many people are out here too is fascinating.
Yeah.
You did not think that there would be people out here right now.
When do you call it? When do you say, I think it's time to go in and hunker down?
Maybe a few more miles per hour of wind, maybe when it comes up. The waves come up a little bit higher, I mean.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave though.
Because this is interesting.
Yeah.
Something you don't typically get to see down here, right?
Totally.
Well, thank you, Anastasia, for talking to us. But yeah, we're seeing a lot of people on the beach. In fact, we thought that there were some little flashes of lightning, and it was actually just people's cameras taking pictures of the ocean. You can see how windy it is. I know it's tough to see in the dark just how big those white caps are. We're taking you a little bit closer so you can see the ocean right now, but it is rough out there right now, and we're still seeing a lot of people out here trying to get their own first-person view of the ocean and the atmosphere as we wait for Dorian to come. So we will continue to keep you guys posted and give you a look at the beach here at Indy Atlantic. One other thing that I do want to mention, Brevard County has issued, Melbourne has issued a flood advisory for parts of Brevard County. Said they've already seen about an inch of rain in some areas, so there is a flooding advisory. Just want to let people in Brevard County know that. And again, this area still under mandatory evacuation, so if you can find some place to go and stay safe, do that. Now is the time to do that as these winds, as you can see, continue to pick up, and we're waiting for the rain that
A lot of people putting out sandbags. You can see a good pile of them over there, just trying to keep water out at all. This area is fairly close to the big lake out here just off of downtown. I know that's been an area they've kind of watched in the past and during these hurricane and tropical storm events for flooding. We have been checking some of those areas, some of those historically flooded areas. A lot of people preparing, others not so much, holding off, waiting to see what happens, kind of what we're seeing everywhere. Some people out too, getting last minute action, getting some last minute supplies and last minute breather before this storm hits. Everyone just kind of waiting on pins and needles to see what happens out here for now. For now, we are in downtown Kissimmee. I'm Brian Scott, Fox 35 News.
The news station continues to monitor Hurricane Dorian.
We certainly do. We're going to take a break, but we'll be right back. Stay with us.
and this hurricane is no joke. We have more reports coming in from the Bahamas saying that they do have 5 deaths recorded following Hurricane Dorian's passage, and one of those, unfortunately, is a 7-year-old who had drowned after his family attempted to relocate from their home. So again, this storm definitely was damaging and catastrophic over the Bahamas, and we are continuing to watch the track it's going to take when it hits the U.S. East Coast. Again, a lot of people thankful that we did have that northern trajectory happening, because then it is going to be about 90 miles from the coast of Florida, but residents are still going to feel the effects of that hurricane, especially well into tomorrow and through Wednesday.
With Matthew. Now, we had higher gusts, of course, those little squally gusts that came by, 72, 71, 70-mile-an-hour winds right along the coast, but those would be expected in the quick gusts. The strongest winds during Matthew were right over Cape Lake County, 61-mile-an-hour gusts at Orlando. Again, not calling it exactly the same, but I do see a lot of similarities between Matthew and what could eventually happen with Dorian. And if Dorian tracks even further east than Matthew, we'll see less wind than that. Hurricane warnings in effect all the way through the event, which means probably through late Wednesday evening. The worst weather still on tap for as we go through late tomorrow afternoon into the evening and overnight hours Tuesday into Wednesday. Hurricane warnings for Flagler County, coastal Volusia, into Brevard and Indian River counties. Tropical storm warnings in effect for the rest of Central Florida, Seminole County, Lake County, Orange, Osceola, Eastern Marion, Putnam, and of course inland Volusia counties. Guardian live weather radar on the job right now, continuing to show that northeast flow coming in off of the Atlantic. The squalls that have come in earlier today, they'll continue in the overnight hours. They'll continue tomorrow as well. And then as we go through the afternoon hours tomorrow, as Dorian eventually starts to move in our general direction, but off the coast, well off the coast, we'll see more rain squalls coming into play. The good news with the rain squalls, it limits the chance of thunderstorms. A tropical atmosphere doesn't have the risk, doesn't have the cold air aloft necessary, so the risk for thunderstorms much less. But once again, we'll see the winds pick up, the squally weather pick up, and the weather deteriorate as we go through the day tomorrow. Rain accumulation, now this is a forecast model, and again, it's been dropping the rain just a little bit as we've gone through the late afternoon and evening hours due to the fact that Dorian may track further east than Matthew did, looking 3 to 4 to 5 inches right along A1A, less. Folks, we're talking about Hurricane Dorian. You can easily see it, impressive presence right there on the satellite. But hurricane season, the peak of it
is generally about a week away. And right now we're looking at 2 areas of disturbed weather for possible development. One in the western Gulf of Mexico. It's moving to the west towards the Texas and Mexico border, but here we tend to look to the east. National Hurricane Center is looking at this area of disturbed weather off the coast of Africa for possible tropical development in coming days. We'll send it back to you.
All right, Brooks, appreciate it. A Flagler County artist is getting artistic, as with all the weight Hurricane Dorian. Stephen Belle painting a mural of Dorian on a boarded-up window at a gas station in Flagler Beach.
This is the only hurricane they want to see here in Flagler Beach, and hopefully it's the only one we do see, but I guess we're just going to kind of have to see what happens.
Belle says he plans on staying, waiting out Dorian at a friend's home in Flagler Beach. 8:55, the news station is monitoring her.
We've got to look at how other places are preparing.
again, we have been reporting it. Hurricane Dorian unleashed massive flooding across the Bahamas on Monday, pummeling the islands with so much wind and water that authorities urged people to find flotation devices and grab hammers to break out of their attics if necessary. There are at least 5 deaths blamed on this storm, and it had slowed down to almost a standstill as it shredded roofs, hurled cars, and forced even rescue crews to take shelter until it had passed. Dorian began a forecast turn to the northwest, so right now the storm's top sustained winds have fallen to 140 miles per hour, still though within the Category 4 range, and it was virtually stationary, centered just 25 miles northeast of Freeport. Hurricane force winds extended out as far as 45 miles from the center, and that's according to the latest from the National Hurricane Center advisory. And forecasters are urging Florida residents to stay prepared, as this is the second most powerful hurricane recorded in northern Atlantic Ocean when it comes to those wind strengths, and it is the 11th strongest based on pressure. That was when pressure on Sunday was at its lowest point early in the day. And thank you again for being here with us and watching News Now. I know we earlier today had been giving you some looks at the beaches live in Florida, and just to give you a look at what those cameras look like now, completely dark. All you can see is a little bit of those city lights, as this is Daytona Beach, so you can't even see the waves crashing in because this camera obviously does not have a light with it. And taking another look, here's another camera we had brought to you earlier today. So again, we're going to be continuing to watch just on our graphics here. If any live breaking news does pop up, obviously we will take you out to that here on News Now. And if we did miss anything throughout the day, I'm going to go do a little bit of digging, make sure that we've brought you all the news content that we can. If I see anything that we haven't brought you here on our stream, I'll bring it to you guys. Until then, it's just past 6 p.m. and we do have 2 more hours here with you on News Now. We're going to be taking you up to the 8 p.m. hour on News Now. Then tomorrow we will be back full staffed, so we will be going from 9 a.m. until 10 p.m. And while our eyes are on this storm, and obviously thoughts with those who have already been affected by Hurricane Dorian, we do have some breaking news coming out of the Arizona area. No video to go with it quite yet here for you, so I'm just going to be reading the story. Officials with Maricopa County Sheriff's Office say a man has drowned along the Salt River. Now, according to a brief statement, deputies were called out to the area downstream from Blue Point Bridge and Sheep's Crossing for a drowning call. This happened just after 4 p.m. today. The man went underwater for about 15 minutes before he was recovered and was then declared dead. So they have not identified the victim yet, but again, that is some sad news coming out of Arizona on the Salt River, where a man has drowned this evening. Just a reminder, we are doing our live stream until 8 p.m. Arizona time. That means we have just under 2 hours left here. If any breaking news pops up, of course, we will bring it to you right here live on our stream. Until then, our eyes continue to watch Hurricane Dorian as it heads slowly and steadily towards the U.S. East Coast. And good news for us here on News Now, we do finally have a live image that is a little bit more lit than some of the other city ones that we've been seeing. This is in Jupiter, Florida, so you can see that tide coming in strong and constant here as Hurricane Dorian continues to make his way towards Florida. So again, giving us this live look is Fox down in Florida. Jupiter, Florida is where we are taking this look at the waves crashing in.
I can hear you. Yeah, it's coming all the way up and hitting the... I can hear you. Can I hand this to you for now? Yeah. Thank you. Mic check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm all set, yeah. I able to walk at all? Or not? You don't have to, but do I have slack? So if I just point out how high up it's come here, does that work or not? Or am I out of the light? I don't want to take it off the wall though, so. I could walk to here and just show. An hour ago, what would you say? We had like how many feet between us and the... Yeah. I'd say it's crept in an additional, what, 20 feet since... Hi, I'm good. How are you? Okay. That's some... This way? Oh, here we go. We might be moving up onto the stairs here pretty soon. John, we last talked to you about 50 minutes ago, and from then to now, we lost about 20 feet of beach. I just want to show you how high up the waves are coming now. You can see here this little line in the sand. We just had one that almost took our camera out. We might have to move the next time we see you. Looking back at the retaining wall over here, we've seen some of these swells cresting that retaining wall, spraying up onto the building that is barricaded. Windows are boarded up. This is part of a mandatory evacuation zone, and we are under those orders not just because of the risk of the high winds, which we have been seeing, but because of the storm surge. It could be 4 to 7 feet. Tide is coming in, and we are seeing that storm surge swell. Also, this is king tide in this area. It's a higher than normal tide because of the gravitational pull associated with the moon, the earth, the sun at this time of year. It's a predictable natural phenomenon, but this storm surge combined with the king tide, combined with this storm, has made very dangerous situation. We are continuing to monitor it, but we are rapidly losing beach here, John. Thank you.
To move for the 10 o'clock. Yeah. Okay, copy. Copy that. So I don't have to redial that.
Well, I try to go into that parking lot. It's really close to the water, so you might have to move. We're waiting to see. 6 minutes?
Oh, no, we can definitely do it here.
Well, let's give it a 10
I mean,
minutes.
the last one, but I don't know that it's coming up fast, you know.
I mean, that one.
There's a rogue wave every once in a while, but I think we'll know. We'll have plenty of time to look.
Okay. Just focus that.
Like the water doesn't hit here, then we're okay.
Right.
We need to be able to get to the distance. The only thing is that hit here, that's why
Governors warned people in mandatory evacuation areas to take those orders seriously. People in flood-prone, low-lying areas. I'm here. Hi, Kenny.
And as you can see, our reporter getting ready to do another live hit for Fox News Channel. We are, of course, watching it live happen here on News Now. And just a reminder, we have about another hour left here on our News Now stream, bringing you all those top stories. Again, this has been the major focus of today across the United States as all eyes are on the East Coast as Hurricane Dorian makes its way towards the U.S.
Stand by.
Devastation is unprecedented and extensive.
And new images from the islands of the danger, damage, and destruction.
Coast Guard crews from right here in Florida on standby, ready to help those hardest hit by Hurricane Dorian.
And South Florida stepping up to get supplies to those who need it most. How you can help.
Next, the hurricane expected to hug the coast. Cocoa Beach bracing for a close call.
The 7 News drone camera capturing these images as Dorian stirred the surf here in Jupiter. In Boca, people hitting the beach, taking in the sights and sounds with the storm just miles offshore.
People also out and about as Dorian's outer bands start to deliver rounds of rain. The night team in Deerfield Beach.
Dorian delivering a strange and at times soggy Labor Day holiday here in Fort Lauderdale.
First at 10, South Florida's night team is everywhere. Tracking Dorian.
I'm Craig Stevens.
I'm Balkis Nuri. The news at 10 starts right now.
This is 7 News at 10.
The night team is tracking Dorian, the high-powered hurricane not moving tonight and is continuing to batter the Bahamas. But it is expected to start moving north just hours from now.
First up, though, we got to talk about schools. Public schools are still closed tomorrow in Broward and Miami-Dade. But Miami-Dade's schools are expected to open Wednesday. Broward, those folks will decide what they're going to do tomorrow morning.
Well, the night team has reporters up and down the east coast of Florida, but we're going to begin with Chief Meteorologist Phil Farrow. A lot to talk about as far as the storm goes tonight. Phil?
Well, this storm is just something else. It has stalled just to the north of Grand Bahama Island. It has been sitting there since 5 p.m. this afternoon. That is 5 continuous hours, and it's been 10 right across Grand Bahama, actually making its first landfall here yesterday across Marsh Harbor. These howling winds continue to impact the area, and we're really not going to see any respite from this, at least until tomorrow when the system starts to slowly move away. As of the 10 p.m. advisory, 140-mile-per-hour winds, and if that wasn't bad enough, it is stationary. It is not moving. It is just sitting right now just to the north of Freeport in Grand Bahama Island. So when we talk about the wind field, how far out these winds go, tropical storm force winds of 40 miles per hour and above extend out from the center here a good 150 miles. Now, the really destructive winds, 74 miles per hour all the way up to 140, 145, they fan out from the center 45 miles. This is the most destructive part of the hurricane, and this is still unleashing its fury across Grand Bahama Island. Now we're going to take the wind field here, and we're also going to show the cone of concern at the same time. Now it looks like finally by 2 a.m. the system starts to just nudge away from Grand Bahama Island. The worst continues to be over this part, but tropical storm force winds could extend all the way out into Palm Beach and all the way north into Fort Pierce. Then some very strong upper level winds start to move in. They pick up the system and slowly drag it to the northwest. By Tuesday at 2 p.m., it should finally be away from Grand Bahama Island, and again up and down the east coast here from Palm Beach County all the way up through Cape Canaveral. They could see some tropical storm force winds 40 miles per hour or above. Meanwhile, in the long haul, those very same upper level winds that are going to push it to the north-northwest should help to keep the eye of the system away from hopefully making another landfall across the Sunshine State. It may come close here to the Barrier Islands, and then mercifully it should come to an end at some time on Saturday. Now we can clearly see the eye, the center of circulation across Grand Bahama with some gusty winds, heavy rain there. The eye is the area with no rain. Everything's nice and quiet within the eye walls where they have all that furious, strong, gusty winds. Now what can we expect? Well, as this spins, it's going to just throw out some rain, and that's in the form of feeder bands coming across. So our impacts are going to be in the form of some thunderstorm activity moving by very quickly with some gusty winds. Right now, it looks like one of those feeder bands is aiming for the lower Keys. Get ready for some heavy rain and some winds anywhere between 25 to 35 miles per hour. Here's the eye sitting right across Grand Bahama, and it's just been spinning here and spinning here, not just since this afternoon, but since late last night. And once again, Broward and Miami-Dade looking pretty good right now, but you will see that on and off activity during the day tomorrow. Here's your up-to-the-minute Hurricane Dorian information, 140 mile per hour winds. I want to give you a little perspective just how long they've been dealing with this. Hurricane Andrew made landfall across deep southern Miami-Dade County at 5 a.m. and it left and moved into the Gulf of Mexico a mere 3 hours later, and that was horrific. These people across Grand Bahama Island have been seeing these torrential downpours. The international airport continues to be closed. Freeport, heavy rain today, gusty winds all across the area. and it's been like this all day long. And then the rest of Grand Bahama Island has just gotten a soaking. There is the center of Dorian, just to the northeast there, about 25 miles.
All right, guys, I do want to give you a heads up that I'm going to be going on camera here in a little bit in our newscast here in Fox 10 Phoenix. So I'm bringing myself up on camera. We are going to be switching gears here as I talk a little bit about that shooting that happened in Texas over this weekend. So again, thanks for being here. Going to go on camera here in just about 30 seconds. Yeah, good evening, guys. Texas state troopers say 2 of their own tried to pull over a driver in the West Texas town of Midland for not using a turn signal, but the driver shot out his back window, injuring 1 trooper, then began what authorities say they'd never encountered. The driver headed 20 miles west to Odessa, continuing to shoot, terrorizing families and drivers. Authorities saying nothing could have prepared them for a moving, active shooter tragedy that happened. Police stopped the rampage at a movie theater, ramming the U.S. Postal Service truck he stole.
You'll notice that I'm not naming this subject, and there's a reason for that. I refuse to. I'm not going to give him any notoriety for what he did.
7 people were killed, ages ranging 15 to 57. More than 20 were injured, including a trooper, 2 police officers, and a 17-month-old Anderson Davis, who was shot in the face while her family was at a stoplight. Her parents telling local media she is home recovering. The day before the shooting, Texas Governor Greg Abbott held his first domestic terrorism task force, convened after 22 people were killed at a Walmart in El Paso last month.
Tired of the dying of the people of the state of Texas. Too many Texans are in mourning.
Now, this as new state gun laws went into effect, loosening some restrictions. The governor tweeting today that the gunman had a criminal history and he didn't go through a background check for the gun he used in Odessa. Agents for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives are now investigating exactly how the gunman got his hands on the AR-style rifle used Saturday. News Now streams live news coverage from across the country. A link is on our website, fox10phoenix.com. All right, guys, that's going to do it for that first News Now hit. Going to take you back out to that hurricane coverage that we have coming in from Florida. Oop, not Texas mass shooting.
From Nassau, the country's capital, Joe.
That's right. The rising water is posing a threat for every part of the Bahamas touched by Hurricane Dorian. Tonight, new views of the catastrophic damage. Hurricane Dorian continuing its path of destruction in the Bahamas, sending waves crashing into the second story of this home as water creeps up the stairs. A quick skim of the damage left behind on some of the islands paints a grim scene. In Marsh Harbor, boats capsized and rising water levels reaching the roofs of homes as people remain stranded. Rescues taking place across the island as people who can escape the hurricane's wrath try to find others. Vehicles tossed around like toy cars, looking like they've been in bad wrecks. Utility poles snapped like twigs with debris left scattered in yards and on streets.
I think everyone here is pretty much in shock. It's utter destruction everywhere we look. Houses are completely destroyed. persons' houses aren't even on their post. We have a lot of fatalities.
This video taken as the once Category 5 storm hammered Harbor Island to the southeast. Boats scattered on the coast as wind whipped the palm trees and rain sprayed sideways. New video out of Nassau shows the extent of the flooding. Streets submerged, the more than foot of rain hampering the ability to get around.
There were several vehicles traveling for a number of reasons, many of them becoming stalled.
The rising waters sweeping through this home on the Abaco Islands, leaving the contents thrown around.
Firefly's dock is gone, no vegetation. The bar wall has completely collapsed.
Then the owners of Firefly Sunset Resort posting this video. Damage, both outside and inside. A stark contrast to what once was. With people stuck, officials telling them to stay put until they're in a position to respond.
As soon as the weather permits, first responders will go to those areas where we had reports from individuals who were in distress.
Officials said they received a, quote, tremendous number of calls from people in flooded homes, a radio station along with them getting more than 2,000 distress messages. We're live in the Satellite Center. Joe Rotes, 7 News 19.
All right, Joe, the U.S. Coast Guard is already in the Bahamas and rescue missions are underway right now. 19's Jeff Lennox is live at the Coast Guard station on Miami Beach to tell us about it. Jeff?
Yeah, Craig, this is really impressive to see. The U.S. Coast Guard is already hard at work here today. The Prime Minister in the Bahamas says that the Coast Guard has already saved a number of people in the hardest hit areas, islands, that have been ravaged by Hurricane Dorian. And we do expect these search and rescue operations to pick up in the days to come once Dorian moves out of the way. Hurricane Dorian taking its toll on the Bahamas, and the U.S. Coast Guard moving in to help.
I'll go, U.S. Coast Guard.
The Coast Guard landing a helicopter in the hard-hit Abaco Islands on Monday. The Prime Minister of the Bahamas says crews have already rescued a number of people from the storm-ravaged islands. Other Coast Guard crews from Florida are watching, waiting, and ready to move in. Search, rescue, and relief missions will pick up in numbers as soon as slow-moving Hurricane Dorian moves out and away from the Bahamas. The U.S. Coast Guard has planes, helicopters, and cutters ready and staging for the aftermath. More than 20 Florida-based cutters seen docked at the Coast Guard station in Key West, waiting to be deployed. These ships will serve as a lifeline, getting much-needed food, water, and other supplies to the islands hardest hit by Dorian. From Air Station Clearwater, Coast Guard C-130 aircraft ready to fly. Crews in this picture seen getting a brief ahead of their mission. MH-60 Jayhawk helicopters and crews are fueled and ready. Some crews from Florida already on Andros Island in the Bahamas, ready for a rapid post-storm response. Missions will be running around the clock in the days after Dorian. Stepped up search and rescue missions by helicopter the most urgent in the hours after Coast Guard crews get the green light to fly. And Bahamian authorities will be working hand in hand with the U.S. Coast Guard as the search and rescue missions and relief missions get underway in the hours and days to come. We're live at U.S. Coast Guard Station Miami Beach tonight. Jeff Lennox, 7 News 19.
And Jeff, some may be asking, what can we do to help the people in the Bahamas after this disaster? South Florida is already stepping up tonight. The 19's Franklin White is live at a Miami fire station, one of many drop-off destinations for relief supplies. Franklin.
And that help is still rolling in. Take a look. There's water, diapers, flashlights, canned goods, and that's just here. And much more rolling in all across South Florida.
I'm just asking the community to come out and make donations.
That help will soon be on the way for the Bahamas. Donations coming into Miami Fire Station 8 in Coconut Grove Monday night. This is hard to watch images from Dorian's wrath on the Bahamas shows homes destroyed, many desperate for help.
There are individuals that are now homeless. There are families over there who are searching for other family members.
State Rep Chevron Jones sharing video taken by his family in the Bahamas. they're okay, but he knows many others are not.
I'm very shaken up, just as I know that a lot of the individuals here within the South Florida, within our state, are concerned about the people of the Bahamas.
And they're doing something about it. The Smile Trust spent the day collecting supplies.
It's like complete devastation right now, so they need almost everything.
Including water, diapers, toiletries, and the list goes on. Christ Episcopal Church in Coconut Grove, one of many locations hosting a drive organized by the city of Miami. Folks at Fort Lauderdale also pitching in a donation drop-off setup at Riverside Market.
Watching the devastation and the desperate need that people have there, it's our obligation to help and do good in the world.
Also doing good, the Global Empowerment Mission, gathering donations in Miami's Little Haiti section. And as more heartbreaking video from the island continues to roll in, South Florida will also continue to join forces and do what they can to help.
It's a really big thing for us to respond directly to the Bahamas because they've always been there for Miami.
And they're also asking for first aid kits. If you would like to help, click on this story at WSVN.com for a list of all donation sites all across South Florida. Reporting live in Coconut Grove tonight, Franklin White, 7 News 19.
And our coverage continues now with the 19's Brian Enton. He is in Cocoa Beach, where there is a bit more anxiety in terms of the storm's track tonight. Brian?
Yeah, Craig, we've been here the past several nights, and it really has turned into a ghost town tonight. There's pretty much no one here. The roads are empty. It's really just the people who work in the hotels and several of the locals. And you mentioned it, anxiety. They have anxiety tonight because they don't know just how close Dorian will come to the east coast of Florida tomorrow. Barely even a breeze in Cocoa Beach Monday night, but the Barrier Island is ready for what Dorian could bring on Tuesday.
Everyone's in good spirits. I haven't seen a lot of people panicking. It seems like they've gone through this before, so they know what to go through.
Further south in Vero Beach, they were already feeling the impacts of the hurricane Monday. Nothing too serious. Gusty winds and high surf were the highlight and attracted crowds. The Vero Beach Marina, the storm surge caused the intercoastal to rise, covering some docks.
Definitely higher waves, definitely more water rolling in.
Oh, the water's getting closer, it's getting higher. Oh yeah.
At the Sebastian Inlet, the water was rough with high waves battering the jetty. Local officials say they'll keep the bridges here open to traffic during the storm, but close them after it passes to make sure they weren't damaged. One concern is that the high tide combined with the storm surge could bring the ocean up right against these condos that are very, very close to the water. You see businesses, they are totally boarded up. They've got sandbags down just in case the water comes up.
The surf is much closer in. The winds are probably, I don't know what these are, maybe 40-mile-an-hour winds now. Yesterday, they were probably like 15.
Sheriff's deputies have A1A along the coast closed because of the mandatory evacuation. And while the Space Coast wants to see what Dorian will bring, they know it will be nothing compared to the devastation the Bahamas is dealing with.
I don't know how these people are going to recover from this, and I hope to God that we have people ready to go out there and help. And I mean, yeah, I'm thinking it's a tragedy.
That man and so many others that we've spoken to bringing up the Bahamas in their conversations with us, obviously just devastated by the images that they are seeing coming out of there, knowing that nothing that happens here will compare to what the islands went through, but still they're making last-minute preparations and anxiously waiting to see what Dorian will bring here to the Space Coast tomorrow. For now, live in Cocoa Beach, Brian Enton, 7 News Night Team.
Brian, let's head 2 hours down I-95 now to Jupiter. That's where the night team's Maricela Burgos is live for us tonight. Maricela.
Well, the biggest concern is flooding. I'm going to shine this light all the way over to the dock. You can see the water has risen significantly here, and that current is moving rapidly. People here are hoping for the best. 7 News drone camera flies above a Jupiter neighborhood Monday. Hurricane Dorian pushing fierce waves toward the shore.
Everybody's here enjoying a normal weekend usually, but with the way things are now, it's better to be more precautious.
Locals walking onto the beach trying to get a peek at Dorian's strength. Many beaches closed because of serious concerns with storm surge and beach erosion.
Normally it's nice and calm, and it's actually a really good snorkel spot. It's one of the better snorkel spots here in Jupiter. It's nice and flat, and there's lots of nice reefs around, and yeah, it's definitely nothing like what it normally is.
Mandatory evacuations in place in various communities along the coast. Police blocking this road that you take to drive to Martin County because of that.
I'm confident that the predictions are right and it'll stay off and we won't get too strong of winds, but we're watching closely, that's for sure.
A quiet Labor Day around Harborside Place. Restaurants and shops closed. Sandbags line the front entrance of some of them. This family boarded up their home and decided to stay in a hotel.
For me, typically, if it's anything that's going to be over a Category 3, that's when I feel like it's time to go somewhere that's going to be safer. I mean, our home is typically built to withstand, but we're so close to the ocean, it's just not worth taking a chance.
Now they wait, confident that they've prepared enough for this storm.
Flooding is what we're worried about. It's a one-story house. As Isabella mentioned, we got 5 animals and 2 kids, so that would be very challenging if there was flooding.
Palm Beach County emergency management officials continue monitoring Hurricane Dorian and plan to respond if they need to. Live in Jupiter, Maricela Burgos, 7 News 19.
And Live 19 coverage continues in Delray Beach. Chris Van Vliet is there with residents boarding up and others just heading on out this holiday. Chris?
Well, the wind has certainly picked up a little bit over the last few hours here in Delray Beach where we are. The rain, though, holding off for most of the day. Residents in Palm Beach County spending the day preparing. Go away, Dorian. The message is loud and clear in Palm Beach County as residents and businesses boarding up, preparing for the worst.
It's better just to be safe. It is a big hurricane and we don't want to get any chances.
Delray Beach police stopping anyone who doesn't live on the barrier island from going over the bridge and into the evacuation zone.
You know, we live in Florida, you know, anything that comes, you have to be prepared, you know. I have my plan A, I have even a hotel booked up north, but then the hurricane kind of shift a little bit.
As the storm picked up throughout the day, the swells grew and sea turtle nests were damaged. But on Atlantic Avenue in downtown Delray Beach Monday evening, it was business as usual for most restaurants.
It hasn't been the worst. We're enjoying. We're trying to make the best of it.
In Boynton Beach, Two Georges restaurant has major flooding, and in Lantana, the parking lot for Old Key Lime House is completely underwater. Well, we've been keeping an eye on the surf behind us here, and in the last few hours, it's risen 30, 40 feet with very little bit of the beach remaining here behind us. We're live in Delray Beach. Chris Van Vliet, 7 News 19.
All right, Chris, thanks for that update. We've gone up and down the whole coast practically.
And we'll check back in with our crews in just a little while. Right. Meanwhile, we are waiting on the new advisory, and this will be important because it'll give us the latest stats, but also the new cone, the forecast cone from the Hurricane Center.
Phil's here now.
And we are hoping that this system starts to move midnight. The system started to move in across Sweeting Cay, and then right now it is basically sitting just to the north of Grand Bahama Island. That's an overall distance of 40 miles per hour. That's about 2 miles per hour. A human can walk a lot faster than that. As soon as we get the advisory, we'll pass it on to you.
Also ahead, Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport is closed right now, but we have an idea when things may take flight again.
Night team coverage of tracking Dorian continues after a break.